a person saying, I think there's going to be a lot of red beatdown, I think there's going to be a lot of burn, there's going to be a lot of monsters, and I'm gearing my deck to beat those matchups and kind of ignoring the mirror.
Here's one thing here, as we're going to be underway. Talking with Nick Miller before we went live for this round, he said there is a lot of control at the top tables. I'm going to try to diversify things up for you guys, but there are a lot of revelations. And, you know, this isn't too surprising if you think about it. Last weekend was the worst time to be casting Sphinx's Revelation at the Invitational, where everybody was just like, I'm playing something that beats Esper because of what happened the weekend before in Los Angeles and Cincinnati. Now the talk of the town is, you know, Staff of Death Magus, the burn decks, the red decks that people are playing, kind of the aggressive decks, maybe even Mono Blue Devotion is getting some chit chat. No one really talking about Revelation decks coming into this weekend, except for here they are, and they're doing really well.
Yep. Last weekend, the Invitational was a huge reaction to how good Esper had been in previous weeks, and now feels like the metagame may have reset a little bit.
Azorius Charm is what Rill is going to cycle again. He does have a Temple of Deceit in play, but he is not Esper. He's just using that to scry, which is something we have seen quite a bit over the past couple of months. The goal here, of course, is to hit your land drops early and often.
Yeah, the first person who misses a land drop often is the first person who has to act first. And acting first when players are sitting on a lot of counter spells is not the best thing to be doing.
26 lands in Nystrom's deck, 27 in Rill's. So Rill has a small advantage here as Nystrom does play a fourth land and just passes the turn back. Double Dissolve in his hand right now. He knows that he's in a mirror, so it's going to be a little bit slow in plotting. But of course, these games do take a little while to win, so both players do have to be cognizant of time as they draw, as Adrian Sullivan can tell you, is not the best place to be.
And traditionally, game one is the slowest of the games. The post-board games speed up.
Milwaukee going to come into the red zone here. A little bit of a risky attack, I would say, as, you know, even though we know that Rill is blue-white control, there's a chance that he has the black splash for a Doomblade-esque effect, and you really can't afford to be stone rained, as here is a Revelation for 2 that will be dissolved.
I mean, Eric has his 2 main copies of Celestial Flare that we were joking.
Yes.
What a disadvantage in this matchup. If he had one of them there, that would be a big issue for Bradley, potentially.
He does have Revoke Existence in his hand right now, and he's going to land a Jace now that he did get Nystrom to tap out from that dissolve. So Jace is going to tick on down. You'll see a Supreme Verdict Dissolve and an Azorius Guildgate. Dissolve versus is the split. Rill's going to take the land along with the Mass Removal spell, put Dissolve to the bottom. Does mean that he has a land to play this turn. Can't protect his Jace any further, but I think he's okay since he basically did just draw 2 cards.
Yeah, it's fairly common in the blue-white mirrors not to get too fancy with Jace because Detention Sphere is of 4 copies in all the decks, and there aren't that many targets. So often you see this where you play your Jace, you get some cards, and if you get anything beyond that, that's great, but often that's not happening.
Mutavault's going to finish off Jace, as Nystrom did play a Plains for the turn, so neither player has missed their land drop just yet. Rill did allow for his Revelation to be countered, and he's the first one to miss the land drop here. So Nystrom is going to take, I think in a moment here, the land advantage, and he does.
And Bradley appears to have more lands in hand.
This is the spot you want to be in.
Yep. And Eric with 4 copies of Azorius Guildgate, which is quite a lot, of course, but he needs to do that in part because he's playing multiple main deck copies of Celestial Flare. You have Celestial Flare, you have Dissolve, you have a lot of taxing on your blue and white mana, so the concession here is, of course, a lot of Guildgates.
Dissolve is 2 for 2 on counting Revelations. Rill, without a land, just has to pass the turn back yet again. Over to Nystrom, who will take a draw. It's a copy of Supreme Verdict.
A lot of basic planes in play for Bradley, which is another big cost. So many of these games come down to try to chain together a Sphinx's Revelation with counter spells, or Jace with counter spells, or what have you. And actually getting bottlenecked on blue mana is a big cost.
3 for 3. Soft countering a 3rd Revelation here for Rill.
And this is a big deal for the obvious reason of Eric is stuck on land, but also if Eric runs out of Sphinx's Revelation or comes close to it, then it really changes the way Bradley gets to play the game for the better. A big Sphinx's Revelation is the biggest risk at all times. When it resolves, your opponent obviously has a lot of tools to work with. They draw a bunch of counter spells, what have you. When that's no longer on the table, you can be a lot more aggressive tapping out for things or attacking with Mutavault or anything else you want to do.
Top card's going to stay on top as Rill's going to pass the turn back after playing Temple of Enlightenment. You saw Nystrom did miss his land drop a couple of times, but he does draw plains. 14 basics in his deck, 7 islands and 7 plains to go along with 2 copies of Mutavault, 4 Hallowed Fountain, 4 Temple of Enlightenment, and then just 2 off-color Scry lands in Temple of Silence and Temple of Deceit.
Yeah, Eric is on 5 islands, 5 plains. Essentially, Eric has cut 4 basics for 4 Azorius Guildgates. That's the difference in these players' mana bases.
This is a Jace. New art from Jace V. Vraska. There's a Dissolve, so Rill decides he's happy with fighting over that. Going to leave the card on top. In comes Mutavault. See if Rill picked up one of those Celestial Flares at this point. He has not.
Oh, I'm sure Eric is just pleading for one of those Celestial Flares.
Would love to snap him off, as it's not going to have much effect anywhere else in this matchup.
I'm not saying the Celestial Flare is that awesome getting rid of a Mutavault, but just because it's so hard to cash in the mirror match for good effect.
Howl Fountain going to come into play untapped here for Rill. See what he wants to cast this turn. Maybe a main phase Revelation. He'd have to have drawn his 4th one. There's also a chance he's just happy with all this mana tap, but he does draw the 4th Revelation. So for 5. Now again, don't forget, that's the 4th one. So there are no more of those coming until Elixir of Immortality does show up.
Yeah, and that's why Eric kind of has to resolve it now. If he loses this 4th copy of Sphinx's Revelation to a counterspell, a huge angle of attack that he has is just gone forever, or until he finds his Elixir at least.
Second Mutavault here for Nystrom. Let's see if he can actually take advantage of the fact that Rill's shields are down. You see him reaching for 6 mana. This could be Aetherling right now. And it's just an Elspeth. So Rill can breathe a sigh of relief because he can probably beat that one.
Yeah.
As good as Elspeth is, it's actually at its worst in this matchup.
Right. Jace plussing, detention spheres that don't really have anywhere else to go, getting outclassed by Aetherling. There's a lot of issues with Elspeth. It sort of has to stay in the deck because there's so few ways to win the game, and so even Elspeth isn't that well suited for it. It has to stay in essentially, but one of the easier win conditions to answer in the mirror match.
Rill going to play an island. So he's already discarded 2 copies of Supreme Verdict here. Now here's Jace. He did mention that this could come up, or Jace just ticking up can actually handle Elspeth for a little while until it does show its emblem.
Still not a long-term solution because Bradley has detention spheres of his own, so you do have to remove Elspeth at some point. Also, the emblem can just outclass Jace's plussing as well.
Yeah, he has Sphere in his hand right now, so he's going to take care of Jace. Now again, we know that Rill has a copy of Revoke Existence in his hand, so actually give him nice use for that. Looks like Nystrom's going to activate these Mutavaults here and really put some pressure on, it looks like.
Yeah, again, there is no copies of Sphinx's Revelation left.
So an attack here for 2, not 4, because of the Jace triggers, so long as Rill did remember them. It's going to put him down to 15. Elspeth is going to tick up. Some more soldier tokens are going to come flying out here. And we'll see if Nystrom has anything else to do on this turn.
Imagine he's just sending it back, I would assume.
Yeah, not a ton to do. Things are actually going pretty well for Bradley right now. Zoe Strom going to get cycled by Rill. He'll draw a mystery card. He's going to untap her. Probably see him fire off that Revoke Resistance on that Detention Sphere because he needs the Jace, but we'll see. The fact that he did discard 2 copies of Sphinx Revelation, or excuse me, 2 copies of Supreme Verdict may end up to hurt him a little bit here.
Yeah, it's not clear if he could have discarded any of the other tools in his hand, but certainly he is in some trouble now.
And there is the Revoke. So Jace is going to come back. Rill's going to turn a couple cards over. You've got a Detention Sphere along with 2 islands. Sphere is going to go by itself. That's going to go to the grip. Islands are going to go to the bottom.
But it's really hard for Eric long-term here, I feel like, to cobble together a winning plan, just because he's out of Revelations and he has no Aetherling in his deck.
Yeah. And now there's the Verdict. So he uses all of his mana this turn. A really, really nice turn there from Rill. He's also going to play a Hollow Fountain tap and pass the turn. Now his Chase is going to get taken care of by Mutavault, presumably. And his shields are down right now if a Revelation were to show up from Nystrom, but it doesn't look like he has one as he just plays a Plains. And you don't see him reaching for all of his mana just yet. He's reaching for some of it. This may be a Jace on his side. And it is.
And this is a great spot to land Jace and minus it with Eric tapped out and no Mutavaults in play.
Yeah, Rev Versus is the choice. Syncopate and Temple are going to go to the bottom, but it's not going to be a really nice Rev here. So Mutavault is going to take care of Jace and take care of 2 points from Rill's life total. He's going to go down to 13. But Rill gets to untap, and if he has a counterspell, he's actually in a pretty good spot to take care of that Revelation, and a pretty good spot overall. He just needs to handle that Jace.
Yeah, unfortunately, again, the big thing here is he doesn't threaten his own Revelations.
Yep. Yeah, that's the one thing Nystrom does not have to worry about at all anymore. Here's 6 mana. There's an Elspeth there from Rill. And he does have a counterspell in his hand. It does a Syncopate, so 3 soldier tokens will be coming for the player on the right. And the Nerd Rage Gaming hoodie. And we'll see what else he has to do here.
Looks like he has a hand of Syncopate, Blind Obedience, and Celestial Flare.
Yeah.
So
We talked about just how important it is for him to have a good matchup against the aggressive decks. That's why he's kind of tailored his deck this way. He's drawn some of those cards in this matchup, which are not so good.
yeah, although Celestial Flare had a several turn window where it would have been good if Eric did find it.
That's true. That's true. So Nystrom does play a Temple to start. You see him reaching for his mana. See how he wants to use Jace. He's going to cash it in. So 3 cards coming. There's another Jace, Divination, and Elixir of Immortality. Now this will be an interesting split to be sure.
Yeah, I'm not sure how much Eric really values the Elixir at this stage of the game, as the game isn't getting to the point where other players is risk getting decked. And you see him, he actually values the Jace the highest of the 3 cards.
So Elixir, maybe the most important card that was just added to Nystrom's hand. We'll see. Three mana, there's a div, pretty good place to start. 2 cards coming, Syncopate, and a Last Breath among them.
I think Bradley is just trying to look for some sort of answer to this Elspeth.
He's got a Verdict ready for the tokens, but he doesn't have a card like Detention Sphere right now is the issue, I think.
It is a way for Eric to steal this game if this Elspeth goes unchecked for a while.
Yeah. Typically not very good in the mirror match, but if things don't break right for Nystrom, even though he's drawn a decent amount of cards, Rill could actually steal it here. There's an Elixir. Simply pass the turn back over to Rill, who will untap all those lands. He's going to take a draw. See if he can find anything sweet to do. Again, no more Revelations. 3 were countered by Dissolve, and then 1 actually resolved for 5. So the big draw in his deck, he actually cannot draw 2. The biggest draw in his deck is probably just Elixir.
Yeah, Elixir or Jace's are his big draws at this point.
Because he doesn't even have an Aetherling. 0 creatures here in his 75. Pretty crazy.
Yeah, but again, to emphasize, Eric's list is about as good against attacking decks as a blue-white list can really get. Yeah. There are some concessions he's making here.
And Blind Obedience going to be played here. An attack from Rill. Maybe he's trying to set a little bit of a trap here. And again, maybe not. We'll see.
Well, he may have Celestial Flare in hand, and he might just be happy to trade a Celestial Flare and a token to put a Mutavault on back.
Yeah, we know he has the Flare, but you can't imagine that Nystrom knows that.
He also could be threatening a Supreme Verdict there.
Yeah.
If Bradley innovates with his Mutavaults, then Eric, who would otherwise be stranded, essentially, with that Supreme Verdict, would be able to cash it in for pretty good value.
This is a Sphinx's Revelation. This is going to resolve, so 3 cards coming. Rill, I think, has a Syncopate in his hand. He could have used to counter that, but, he just says, 3 cards really don't matter very much to me.
Yeah.
Looks like Nystrom may have picked up his Aetherling here. Gonna take a look at the top card. He's gonna put that to the bottom. He does have 2 copies of Quicken in his deck, so that's another just kind of sweet thing that can happen in this matchup.
Yeah, you can, for example, Quicken Supreme Verdict, untap, threaten the Elspeth a little bit to delay the ultimate.
Don't see Quicken a lot nowadays, but it is something that you have to be cognizant of when you are playing with and against blue-white control.
Yeah, it's something that factors into my decision-making a little bit when I play against it. All other things being equal, it's good to play around it, is the philosophy I take.
Yeah,
so
you can.
You can't really go out of your way.
An attack for 6 from Rill. And it'll work. Nystrom's going to go down to 14, a virtual 19 because of the Elixir that's in play. Elspeth's going to move up to 7 here, so 3 more soldiers are going to come in. Rill going to play a land. It's a Scry land, of course. Going to put the top card to the bottom and pass the turn back.
So Eric's simply sitting on Syncopate right now. Nothing else to protect himself with.
There's Rev. You see a little bit of a strange tapping there with the Mutavaults.
Yeah.
Where it was kind of delayed, but he may have announced a number and then tapped all of his mana. So either way, it's resolving. So you'll see a Rev, a Divination, a Hallowed Fountain, and a Mystery card. Those are the 4 cards drawn off of that. He'll get a 5th one for his draw step. A couple of copies of Violent in his hand. A couple of copies of Azorius Charm too. So he's the one with all the tools here, as he does play a Hallowed Fountain. Now he just needs to take care of these soldier tokens and the Elspeth.
Yeah, I think that what Bradley's trying to do here is just get Eric to make an Elspeth emblem and then Quicken Wrath him. If Quicken's not on the radar.
Yeah. I think he's trying to hook him in.
And you can see he's trying to do some body language tells right now, trying to think, I can't beat this thing. The problem is that by discarding divination, you're highlighting that something's going on.
Yeah. That's the dead giveaway, right? It's like, I can't do anything. Well, you could cast that divination.
Oh, man, I can't do anything about your Elspeth.
Well, you could cast divination to try to find an answer. Know what are you talking about? Go.
No.
There's nothing I can do.
I wouldn't have even drawn it.
Yeah.
So unlucky.
Rill's moving in. And he's going to attack here for a bunch. This is going to be a Quicken. This is the card they're actually going to fight over, most likely. Now, what's really interesting is that Rill can syncopate this for some amount and really mess things up.
Right. It's not clear if Bradley would have enough mana left over to be able to pay for this Quicken here and then also cast Supreme Verdict.
Yeah. And this is the issue, right, where Nystrom may have gotten a little too cute. He could have just cast Supreme Verdict.
Yeah.
And now you see Rill is doing a bunch of math saying, all right, so how much can I do this for? And what can I play around? And if I syncopate for this much, what happens? Now, he didn't play a land to start, but you see him reaching for mana right now, so it looks like he's going to go syncopating. Yeah, and it looks like this is going to be a pretty big syncopate with 4 mana available. I wonder if him not playing that Mutavault comes back to hurt him here. And here's a syncopate for probably enough to make it so that he can't cast Wrath. And can he afford to actually syncopate back for the necessary amount and then still cast Verdict? That's the question here. I think the answer is yes. 5. So yeah, syncopate back for 5. I wonder if Rill had played that land if this happens.
Yeah, well, Bradley has 1 mana left over still, or he has 5 mana up, right?
Okay.
So, no, you still, with the extra mana in play, Bradley would still have been able to pay.
His lands are a little scattered out right now.
Yeah.
There's, you just see the Verdict. It's going to clean up everything. So, yeah, it looks like the last thing that he had left was the Mutavault, so he still would have been okay.
Right.
That could have went badly for him, though.
Oh, yeah.
And by badly, I mean if it doesn't work correctly, he loses the game.
Yes.
So it could have been really bad. But either way, he makes it out alive. He's the one with all the cards in the hand. No more Elspeth there for Rill. And so now he's just going to fire some Mutavaults coming to the red zone here. The Mutavault on Rill's side can certainly block since it is pretty big. There's Celestial Flare to start things off.
And now Eric's empty-handed, so Bradley is a free-for-all to do whatever he wants. And he does have a Rev in hand.
Don't forget that Mutavault on Rill's side is actually a 4/4 because of the Elspeth emblem. Of course, Elspeth granting +2/+2 and flying.
But Eric might not be able to risk having this Mutavault get Azorius charmed.
I agree. Looks like he's going to try to block, yeah. And that's going to be... Last Breath will not work because of the Elspeth emblem. So he can try as hard as he'd like, but it will not work.
Yeah, he's not even allowed to announce it.
Yep. Not a legal target. And I think Bradley's probably asking the judge right now is, well, can I even cast this spell, or do I have to target something of my own, or what happens? And they'll just unwind the game. You see him untapping the mana and say that what you were trying to do was illegal.
Right.
So you can't do it at all. What you can do is Azorius Charm that, though, and make that Rill's draw step.
Which is actually arguably better for Bradley in this spot because Eric has no hand.
Yeah.
So now you know he's redrawing Mutavault, the coast is clear for you to Rev, and then probably take the game from there.
Yeah. So Rill's going to untap all these lands. He's going to draw Mutavault, put it into play. All he can do is pass the turn back. There's the Rev.
Yeah, even if it was legal to Last Breath that turn, in Bradley's spot, I would have Azorius Charmed and not Last Breath.
Yeah, no, me too.
Yeah.
I like it's just a time walk at that point.
Right.
It's great. And now he's able to resolve Revelation. He draws another copy of Dissolve. He's got himself an Attention Sphere over here. He's just going to kill that Blind Obedience, so that doesn't do anything. So that'll go by the wayside. Again, the world is his oyster right now. He can keep casting Azorius Charm if he'd like, but he's just going to pass the turn back here. Rill going to draw. Not sure what he found. It's a copy of Azorius Charm that he wants to cycle, so he'll draw another card.
Yeah, I think Rill is in a pretty big risk of just getting decked at this point.
I kind of like Azorius Charming this. Yep. Get that thing out of here. Rill going to play a backup Mutavault before passing the turn back. Nystrom is going to Revelate again. And again, he can be aggressive with his Revelations because, one, Rill has no cards in his hand, but two, he's got Elixir in play.
Yeah.
So if he discards anything that matters, well, he can shuffle back in and just go from there. Again, Andrew Cuneo must be so proud.
Not even going to try to kill him.
No. Just put him into submission. At some point, Eric Rill will probably concede this game. But if he doesn't, that's cool too. Because Nystrom is in such firm control that he can actually use the clock as an ally right now.
Yeah, I was about to say the exact same thing. If I'm Eric, I believe that I would concede this game. Because time's an issue here. Bradley's pretty far away from probably actually being able to kill him. But it's getting so hopeless at this point. I guess the flying Mutavault still give Eric a shot. Not impossible.
Yeah, I mean, I'm kind of with you. I would have conceded. I would have conceded a little bit ago, just because, you know, it's not hopeless for him to win, but the chances are so slim that I would rather just take my chances playing another game or two. Yeah. At that point, instead of hoping, oh, I've got flying Mutavaults, and maybe you have nothing, even though you resolved 4 Revelations and shuffled them back in. Here's a quick-in, which is announcing that I actually do have something. Supreme Vertical take care of one of them. That's all. When you're playing tournament Magic, you know, when the clock is something that you have to worry about, especially when you're in a Revelation Mirror, it's definitely something to be cognizant of.
Oh, for sure. And it stands in contrast to Adrian Sullivan, who plays at lightning speed.
Yes.
When the clock becomes an issue.
Yep. As we saw much earlier today. Playing at a speed I almost didn't know was possible.
I talked to Adrian in between the rounds. He said, yeah, I made some mistakes there because I'm playing so fast.
Yeah.
But it doesn't matter.
A couple of dissolves.
Okay.
Well, why don't you go ahead and split those up? 2 dissolves to the grip, 1 to the bottom. Oh, that's the one that does it. Okay. Oh, you have 2 counter spells? I've seen enough.
Okay, fair enough, fair enough.
Bradley Nystrom does win game number 1 here over Eric Rill in our blue-white control mirror of round number 7.
Again, not surprising, as Eric's deck not suited to win the mirror match game 1 in my mind. No Aetherling, multiple Celestial Flares in the main deck, a Blind Obedience. Really an uphill battle for him game 1.
Take a look at the sideboards here. You have Rills in front of you. I'll let you start there.
A Blind Obedience, a Negate, 2 Dispels, 2 Gainsays, 3 Last Breath, 2 Celestial Flares, a Pithy Needle, a Jace Memory Adept, a Fated Retribution, and a Glare of Heresy. I think you're probably going to see the Glare come in, the 2 Gainsays, the 2 Dispels, the Jace Memory Adept certainly, the Negate. The problem here is that the post-board games are a lot more about being proactive, and Eric really doesn't have the tools to do that. He's not bringing in a lot more win conditions. He's bringing in more counter spells. Those are fine, but the bottleneck is on ways to win the game, and Eric's not really alleviating that with his post-board setup.
The other side of things, you've got a Ratchet Bomb, you've got a Negate, a Revoke Existence, 2 Last Breath, 2 Dispel, 3 Gainsays, 2 Celestial Flares, 2 Blind Obedience, and a Pithing Needle. So, I kind of like the Negate. I like Revoke Existence to take care of D-Spheres. You've got 2 Dispels to fight over Revs. You've got Gainsays to do the same thing. This isn't a matchup where people are going to be bringing in Nightfield Specters, as we know. So I think it's pretty straightforward stuff. I think this game is going to look a lot like the last one.
Yeah.
Nothing too crazy changing here. We'll take a look at our Open Series leaderboard here really quick. Eric Rill, you see, is the 11th player. You've got Brian Braun to win here in the lead. Of course, he is qualified for the Players' Championship, so you can actually say CVM is your leader. And oddly enough, if you follow CVM on Twitter or Facebook, he won an IQ today.
Very nice.
Yeah, he played a birthing pod strategy at a SCG Modern IQ.
Okay, well, congratulations.
Real tough guy, putting creatures into play for basically free. Jensen is playing at, actually he's doing coverage at Grand Prix Phoenix. You've got Fabiano, Jones, Nelson, Lissette, and Jim Davis round out the top 8. The top 16, Eric Rill is among them, and he is in 11th place right now on our leaderboard with 71 points. So, he's obviously down a game right now. You see Duke, Mann, Teets, Tenjum, Smith, Adkins, and Bertoncini, but this is a really, really important weekend for him because of the top 16 players, he's the only one here.
Yeah.
Yeah, and that's a big, big deal.
Although we do have some people further down the list that are on the outside looking in but could easily jump up. Kent Ketter, Owen Turdwall has an opportunity to do it tomorrow, Joe Bernal. So even though this top 16 doesn't have a lot of players competing this weekend, like you mentioned, just Eric Rill, there's a lot of people who could easily jump into the top 16 this weekend with a good performance.
Yeah, Ketter in 20th place. He's, he said he picked up a second loss, also a burn deck with on Monsters, and he just said, I got to keep getting my grind on. Can't leave any of the Open Series points. Turtenwald has already, taken his ball and chain, and he's gone home.
Yeah.
But again, he's from the area. I honestly think Owen lives like 20 or 30 minutes from here. Not far
He's
at all.
really close.
Yeah.
Yeah. Not this time, but the last time I was out in Milwaukee, I actually hung out at his place for a little bit, and he's very nearby.
Yeah. So he's probably at home potentially watching this and firing up the old moto, as he's been known to do. Again, Joe Bernal, I believe, is still playing as well, as is Peter Tragos. We have Greg Smith, Matt Hoey, Jeff Hooglin, Matthias Hutt, Sam Black, who's sitting at X and 1, and Adrian Sullivan actually pacing the field for players that we're following. He hasn't lost yet. He just has a draw.
Yeah, not surprising, but we've had him on camera twice playing control mirror matches, and he's been very impressive.
Yep. He's really at home with this blue-white deck, and, he keeps just going back to this strategy of he loves Revelations in the format. Nothing's going to scare him away from doing it, and it looks like here in Milwaukee, that was the perfect choice because we have a lot of Rev decks at the top tables.
Yeah. Although in this field, I still feel, maybe I would rather be playing Esper than blue-white. If you knew the top tables was going to be a lot of Sphinx's Revelation decks.
Sure.
Access to Dress and Thoughtseize is just so powerful.
And we have a lot of people just playing straight blue-white this particular tournament, which I find to be really interesting. We saw Jarrett Roca, he's playing Esper, but you see here Nystrom and Rill are playing blue-white, Sullivan's just playing straight blue-white. And the reason for that, of course, could be because aggressive decks were so good last week and that you just want to be the deck that has a lot of basics and not 12 temples.
Yeah, the beatdown matchup is the big incentive. For my red list, for example, I consider blue-white to be a slightly unfavorable matchup and Esper to be a joke, basically. Yeah. And it's just all the temples. That's the big difference.
Temples are great, but there's a cost.
Yep.
So we'll be underway here in game number 2 in just a minute. Eric Rill is going to play a Temple of Enlightenment, keeps that card on top. And we're underway in our control mirror. Nystrom going to play a Temple. He'll do the same. Rill going to play Azorius Guildgate right off of the top. And much like the last time, whoever misses the land drop first, chances are they're going to end up losing the game. And Rill missed the first one last game.
Yeah. And setting aside the fact that, again, his deck was just not really built with the mirror match in mind.
See if Rill wants to cast a spell here or not. He does. He's going to break serve with Jace. That's going to get gainsayed. And this allows Nystrom the opportunity to actually resolve his own Jace if he has a 4th land. But that's going to come into play tap. Temple of the Seed's going to put the top card to the bottom. So Nystrom's going to pass it back over to Rill, who's going to try to resolve another Jace. That's going to get gainsayed again. Does Rill have a land? He does not, so he's the first one to miss it. Nystrom draws his card. He plays a Jace of his own. And this isn't the first time we've seen this happen, as Jace is going to tick down.
Yeah, Rill made a couple stabs at it, but now he's in a lot of trouble.
And 3 lands may not seem like the best thing to turn over, but if you're Nystrom, you got to be filled with that. 2 lands are going to go to the grip. Mutavault's going to go to the bottom. He's going to play his land for the turn, which is an island, which allows him to actually cast the Dispel that he has in his hand in case it comes to that, but it won't. So Nystrom will quickly untap. He's going to play a Plains. He's going to tick up his Jace, as he's not scared of that dying. Pass the turn back. Azorius Charm going to be cycled.
Oh!
Nystrom thought about dispelling that.
Just want to stab him off right there, I see.
I think it may be better to wait, Brandon.
Yeah, you might pick a better spot.
Perhaps a better card.
Yeah. I like the instinct.
Going to turn over 3 here. Detention Sphere to go along with the Syncopate, and another copy of Jace.
That move is too aggressive even for my tastes.
I know you like aggression.
I'm a big fan. That's much even for me.
If you dispel that Azorius Charm, you better be right about that.
Yeah. You better not lose.
Now here's an 8th. Wow, we are.
Whoa.
You want some? Come get some.
Not messing around.
I guess he doesn't think Rill has anything. Here's to dissolve. Here's to dispel. Yeah. This is basically saying, well, you better have Detention Sphere right now or you lose.
Yeah.
And I'm actually okay with this because 1, Nystrom's so far ahead, and 2, like he's got ways to get Detention Sphere off the board with Revoke and Elixir.
Well, here's the thing. That Jace went unchecked. There's a really good chance that if Rill had Detention Sphere, that Jace wouldn't be in play anymore.
Yep.
What are the odds he left in Supreme Verdict? Pretty low. So even though that looks like a gutsy play, there's evidence on the table that suggests that Rill has no answer to this Aetherlink.
Yeah. I love it.
Yeah.
He moves in, and if it works, the game is over. And if it backfires, the game isn't over. We just have to play more game.
Yep.
And if you want to play more game, that's fine. I'm super far ahead anyway. I've got more lands than you. I've got more cards in my hand. And I've got a Jace on the table. So even though, Aetherling plays the role of protect the queen in this matchup, there are times when you can just go for it.
Yeah.
Here's a Rev. See if Nystrom actually cares about that. He's going to syncopate for 1. So sure.
Yeah, exactly. That's exactly right. That's a really good spot to land Syncopate.
Yeah, how much better is Syncopate going to be in this matchup? Probably not much better. As Nystrom's going to quickly untap, he's going to take a draw here. It's a Supreme Verdict, so he actually left some of those in. He's going to play a land, tick up Jace, surf with Aetherling. Very aggressive. The attacks here for 8. No reason to blink it and just pass it. His Rill looks like he wants to untap the Hollow Fountain, and he will. He's going to take a draw.
This may be the fastest kill I've ever seen in the blue-white mirror.
Yeah, and that is it. My goodness, Bradley Nystrom is going to win this match over Eric Rill 2-0. Blue-white control is going to come out ahead in this matchup no matter what, but it's the player on the left, who we don't know as well, over the player on the right, Eric Rill, 11th place on our Star City Games Open Series leaderboard.
Again, Bradley, in my mind, just a much better setup in the post board, the game one, and that edge really came up.